Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As you know, today is going to be focused on critical infrastructure. We have a lot of guests and a lot to talk about. I so appreciate having our mayors joining us this morning. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Delegate Greist, to get us started.
All right, thank you, Delegate Ziegler. And obviously this topic is very pertinent and very timely, considering what we're seeing out in Washington D.C. right now. The cause of that was deferred maintenance. Unfortunately, the city of Washington D.C. They didn't invest the money in their critical infrastructure that they should have over the years, and unfortunately, it's what's turning into basically an environmental disaster. And the challenge that we face with infrastructure is that it's just the way the political system's set up. We have elected officials who have a 4-year term, and when they develop budgets, especially the capital budgets, they want to make sure that the projects that are undergone are things that the public can see. Parks, community centers, and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, when we talk about water mains, we talk about, sewer linings and, upgrading wastewater plants. Those are the things that the public doesn't see. But it's critically important that we invest money in those things. And as far as, our federal, state, and local government partnership, it's very critical that we all work together on this because we all represent the same population. So, and that's the hope that our rural caucus can bring together, the federal, state, and local government, and hopefully at some point, we can do a potential needs assessment. We can do an inventory of our critical infrastructure across the state, and hopefully come up with a plan on how to address, this critical infrastructure because. We want to avoid, these catastrophes. I know that do have some towns that are, one disaster away from basically bankruptcy and catastrophe. So we want to avoid that. We want to help each other out as much as we can. And that's the reason why we have everyone here. And I want to thank everyone on the call because you all have a tremendous amount of experience that you guys can bring to this discussion. And so we're very thankful for you all being here. So I'll hand it off to Teresa Coons with the Maryland Municipal League. And I know there's a couple of familiar faces that you have with you. And thank you guys for joining us.
Well, thank you first for having us. And you make a great point on the recent water issue in DC. I actually received 3 calls this weekend from my counterpart in Virginia saying, what's going on? What are we going to do? Because they're getting heat from their cities and counties of what do we do next? So I don't disagree that there is an aging infrastructure issue. I'd like to do a quick overview broadly about Maryland and the municipalities, and then hand it off to our first mayor. So for everyone's context, we have 161 local governments as part of Maryland Municipal League. Some of the things that we handle for infrastructure include the roads and sidewalks. We maintain roughly 10% of your total lane miles in the state. We receive roughly only 3% of HURs, which is going to be a very big issue next year. It's a public safety issue. We have to really discuss that. And municipalities have to maintain those sidewalks along state highways after they're constructed or upgraded. The big pieces that Chair Grice was speaking to, 93 municipal water treatment centers in the state are run by municipalities. The average cost is 3.1 million per center. On wastewater, we have 78 wastewater treatment plants. That average cost is 4.2 million. We maintain all our buildings and public spaces, such as city halls, rec centers, and their outdoor spaces, as already spoken to, parks and playgrounds. And most municipalities outside PEPCO zone, which would be Montgomery and Prince George's County, are maintaining their own streetlights as well. One of the biggest issues we have with the infrastructure is cost. We are net neutral on costs, and it's very difficult to update and modernize systems because we can't add those costs to the users. And that's something that really needs to be a discussion as we go forward with our budget challenges across the state and what municipalities should and should not have authority to do today. I would love to turn this over to Mayor Taylor of Crisfield, then Mayor Menevan of Hampstead, and Mayor McNinch to do our cleanup.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic. I was having trouble, technical difficulties, but good morning, Delegate Grace and Delegate Ziegler. Thank you so much for having us today. From the city of Crisfield, infrastructure is our major issue. All of you are aware flooding is a big problem, but right now our major critical issue is our wastewater treatment plant. We have a wastewater treatment plant that's more than 20 years old, and every major component is currently failing, and it is crippling our city. There's no question about it. The cost of trying to maintain that right now is has us underwater. There's no other way to put it. We're reaching out to different components to try and get support to upgrade our major components. We have applied to the EPA. We have not heard back from that. We've applied to, currently we're applying to Department of the Environment to basically see if we can get some loans to get through this process. But it is a major problem for my city right now. We have a component that we have to get fixed just to get in compliance that just cost $150,000. And for a small municipality whose budget is $4 million total, it is definitely something that we can't maintain. We're looking for ways to be able to pass some of that cost along, but for our citizens, that is just not something that's doable. Last year, I think we raised our water sewer rates by $5, and the backlash was something that you would not believe. So we do have a major problem here. Our infrastructure across the board, we just were able to do some I&I work, some infiltration and work that allowed us to prevent some of the water that gets in. So that work was done with our ARPA money. So we spent about $1 million to try and do that. But still, here we are, not at a place that we can maintain the plant. The flooding compounds that issue. There's no question about it. It has over the years made a major had a major problem on our infrastructure. And so now here we are trying to just keep up from day to day. We have a few projects that are in work. We're replacing some of our lift stations, which will be helpful. But just across the board, just being able to maintain the aging infrastructure is keeping us in a bad position economically and in terms of us being able to build our economic base. That's something that we got to make sure that the capacity is there.
Mayor Nevin, can we turn it over to you to talk about some of the projects that you're working on in Hampstead?
Sure. Good morning. So the big project we have relates to the elimination of PFAS in our water system. And as everybody, everybody's categorized that as a forever chemical. We apparently have some of the highest contaminated wells in the state of Maryland for PFAS. And so what we did was we were trying to be proactive under emerging contaminants. There was a number of funds that were available. So we engineered and have started our water system centralization and modernization project. The plan is to construct 4 new water treatment plants and 5 new pipelines to pipe raw water from the existing wells to the new plants. And the best way, as we can tell, to remove PFAS from the water system is granular activated carbon equipment. Not cheap. It involves using carbon filtration systems to capture the PFAS before it leaves the water treatment plant. And it's an expensive project. For 2,400 users in the town of Hampstead, that total number is $22.1 million. So that works out to $9,200 per ratepayer. So you get an idea of the scope of the problem. We're not the only ones dealing with it. Thankfully, in this case, there was EPA money available, and we were some of the first people in line to get the money. So we're sort of a pilot project, and we had grant participation from EPA and MDE through either outright grants or forgivable loans to the tune of almost $19 million. So $3.2 million of that falls on us. But if we had been required to spend, to bring our system into compliance, spending $22 million, I would have basically handed the keys to the state and said, it's all yours. So you can see the kind of problem we're dealing with. We're not the only ones. Apparently, there's numerous municipalities across the state and across the country that are dealing into the thousands, tens of thousands that have this issue. We're regulating at 4 parts per trillion. You can argue whether that's the right number or not. It's the smallest detectable number that you can measure. I can tell you every year we look at something in the Maryland Municipal League legislature where they want to expand PFAS into the sewer system. You can multiply that number times 5 if that in fact happens. So you get an idea of the scope of some of the things we're looking at.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I hand it off to Mayor McNinch, one of the things I did not bring up earlier in my overview is that about 40 years ago, MML, along with MACO, created our own public insurance pool. And that is one of the reasons why costs have stayed down. We're in a national public pool where we insure our properties, we insure these systems, we insure our employees. So we're not on the main commercial market, and those rates are the only rates that we can find through public pooling. And we have kept those ratepayers' costs down for all these years because of that. And turning it over to Abby McNinch, who's also the vice chair of our insurance pool, which is why I thought of that before I jumped on. But Mayor McNinch.
Good morning, everybody. I am the mayor of Denton. We are a town of approximately 5,000 on the Eastern Shore, the county seat, and we actually have been really good about our public works maintenance and infrastructure, and we've kept it up to date. However, we had a sludge management project that we've been trying to fund for 3 years. And I think I want to speak to, even if you've got infrastructure that's not in critical need, the maintenance and the improvements are just as important. So we had to defer this project, and we were not able to, we did not qualify for any bay restoration funds because we were basically in too good of a status. But we, with the comptroller's office's help, actually, we were able to get funding, but it took us 3 years. Now it's loan and hopefully some loans that are forgiven. But just to put it into perspective, our sewer rates went up 21% this year to pay for it. We have a budget of $2 million and the project's $9 million. So even if you've got projects that you're thinking that you're doing great, you're on top of it, we see all the problems going on with these infrastructure projects that have lapsed. We're struggling even when we're on task.
Thank you.
Actually, can I just add something very quickly? We do have on the call Secretary Jake Weissman, Department of Budget Management, and we're certainly very thankful for you to be here so that hopefully you can get an understanding, which I'm sure you already do, of the critical infrastructure needs that we have in the state. So, Mr. Secretary, if you ever want to chime in throughout this discussion, please feel free to do so.
I appreciate that, Delegate, and appreciate you having me here. I actually had a meeting right before session began with one municipality about this issue, so I am all ears and appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so my understanding is that the comptroller is held up in traffic. Mayor Taylor, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I did just want to add the one thing that I forgot to say is that we are working with Moonshot Missions, and they're helping us to analyze our wastewater treatment plant. And I just wanted to add that what they've told us is to get to the place that we need to get to. It costs us about $10 million. So that's where we are.
Wow. That is pretty scary.
I'm going to say, moving on, we can move on to Department of Environment. I think we have Jeremy Baker here, who we all know worked in the governor's office until recently. So we have a very good working relationship with him, and we certainly thank you for being on the call. Oh, never mind, different Jeremy Baker. I apologize. Jeremy Baker from MDE. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. I'm sure you get that often, don't you?
I do, just about every day, Mr. Chair. So thank you all for having me, and good morning. I'm Jeremy Baker, the other Jeremy Baker. I'm the Director of Government Relations here at the Maryland Department of the Environment. And, was asked to come on and speak about critical infrastructure. And I hopped onto the call a little bit late. It seemed like you all were already having a pretty productive discussion around it. When it comes to the Maryland Department of the Environment, A lot of it for us is water infrastructure, right? Your drinking water infrastructure, your wastewater infrastructure. In the push for housing that we're experiencing right now, we have to make sure that folks can turn on their faucet and have clean water, and then that they can, do their dishes and flush their toilets. And so that is really, when it comes to critical infrastructure for MDE, that is kind of the main focus. I do want to highlight that there are other areas, one that you might not think about is landfill capacity, right? As we continue to grow and expand, Maryland only has about 17 years left of landfill capacity. And so, innovative recycling technologies and extended producer responsibility models will really help us extend the life of those landfills and make sure that things that have a beneficial reuse don't actually make it, into that waste stream. Going back to, water infrastructure for a minute. I'm hearing a lot about these projects, and honestly, I go all around the state during the interim and hear about the projects that are trying to be done. Maryland has a few different funds, and none of them quite go far enough. And so I'll break down each of those. We have what's called the Maryland Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, and that is combination of state and federal money that comes in every year for drinking water projects. And we fund about $200 million worth of projects every single year. The other side of the coin would be the Maryland Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund. And the same thing there. These are your wastewater projects. And Maryland Department of the Environment also has around $200 million a year. So it sounds like a lot of money for water infrastructure, about $400 million between just those two programs. We get about $2 billion a year in project applications. And so you can see that the need is far greater than the resources that are available. There are a couple of other programs that we have, the Bay Restoration Fund, which is about $50 million every year, that is used mostly for wastewater treatment upgrades, as well as public connections to water and sewer, and some septic systems that have advanced treatment technologies. And the last one I want to highlight for you all is the Comprehensive Flood Grant Management Program, or Management Grant Program, sorry. And that is historically funded by the Moore administration at around $13 to $14 million a year. And that's primarily for capital projects for flood resiliency. Again, if you look at what happened in Western Maryland, their ask from the federal government was $36 million, which was denied. So again, $13 million sounds like a lot, but it doesn't quite go far enough. On that program, we get about $70 to $80 million worth of applications every year and only have about that 13 to 14 to spend. So maybe I'll stop there and happy to take any questions and, continue the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is really the purpose of this call. You mentioned all these, dedicated funding sources, these different programs that will help address a lot of the concerns that we're hearing on this call. And there's just not enough money. And then that's just really what budgeting comes down to. It comes down to priorities. And that's above certainly your level and the department level, I should say. But I will say too, given the priorities, the Bay Restoration Fund has been a hot topic over the last couple of years. And unfortunately, it's being used to balance the state's operating budget. Do you know offhand the amount of money that if it were fully funded, how much money that we could have in that program that we don't necessarily have there now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I actually misspoke earlier. It's not $50 million, it's $70 million. This year in the budget, $50 million of that was, rather than coming from the general fund, was from, and I know the secretary is on board, so please tell me if I'm saying anything wrong. There was actually GO bonds that were used for $50 million.
Oh, it backfilled it, okay.
$70 million. So the full $70 million is available, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Secretary.
No, that's correct here. It just comes from a different pot. This was part of the general fund relief that we did through the capital budget.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for clarifying that. That's right.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, the BRF is set to decrease by 50% in 2030. There will be a sunset back to the original levels from when the program was first put in place. And so it is a priority for the department to, have a conversation with the legislature about, taking away that sunset and keeping the Bay Restoration funds fully funded, again, because the infrastructure need is so great. And so that will probably be a bill in a future session. But everywhere I go, I'm trying to remind people that the BRF is set to sunset, and we still have a lot more work to do, not only on new projects, but the useful life of the equipment from some of the projects that we did 20 years ago. The equipment is starting to need replacement. And so it's not sort of a one-time thing for this replacing this infrastructure. It's sort of an ongoing need, and really is, the majority. It's about, I think, 80% or so of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment reductions that we've gotten done for the Bay cleanup.
Good. And I'm sure that'll be a priority for the Rural Caucus whenever the timing is right to move a bill to make that permanent. Moving on, I don't think we have the comptroller here just yet, do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we go to the Interagency Commission on School Construction, Alex Donahue?
Certainly. Good morning, all.
Good morning. Thank you for joining
Co-chairs,
us.
thank you for inviting me to join your conversation. I'll just make a couple of quick remarks. I appreciate very much that you all are including school facilities as part of critical infrastructure, because they are absolutely not just for students and staff and teachers, but communities. They are critical infrastructure for many, many different uses. And that is the same message that I have been making on Capitol Hill as one of the member states in the National Council on School Facilities, that the federal government also has a role in supporting critical infrastructure in the school facilities world. And so we are working, obviously, with the General Assembly and Governor Moore's staff on long-term solutions and planning for supporting the fiscal sustainability of our school facilities statewide, and are making very good progress. Obviously, there are significant challenges, and there's a lot of deferred maintenance and capital renewal backlog that we have inherited and will have to deal with. But we have the data to identify what the most urgent needs are. And we are working with each school district and each county government to prioritize and identify where the investments need to be made, both to keep school facilities open and operating for communities, but also to make them more fiscally sustainable in the long term. So happy to take any questions you might have.
Yeah, I do want. Can you just comment on where we are in regards to both new construction and renovations? I know that we have a 50-year lifespan on all of our schools, and they have to either be replaced or renovated within those 50 years. And I know that we're not on track to do that for each one of our schools across the state. Can you just comment on that?
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Co-Chair, and thank you. The average age of Maryland school facilities is 32 years out of a rough expected useful lifespan of 60. A little bit over 50% used up, right? Ideally, we would be operating a statewide portfolio, and each school district would be operating a portfolio with an average age more in the mid-20s, not mid to low 20s, not 32 plus. And so we are not replacing school facilities when they get the end of their lifespan. The tough thing here is that most school districts are facing a large chunk of their portfolio of facilities that was built in the 60s and 70s during the major growth of the state and a lot of migration. There are a huge number of facilities built then that are all aging out now because they're all 50 plus years old. And we do not have state and local funding combined enough to simply do all those projects. So there is a backlog of replacements of aging out facilities. Almost a fifth, or about a fifth, of the schools in the state are 50 years or older. That's a lot. It's a lot of square footage, and at $500+ per square foot, it's a huge cost. Second, though, and this is just to get to I think kind of part of what you're looking at, Delegate Grace, is that roofs, HVAC systems do not last 60 years, of course. And so even if a facility is not ready for full replacement or full renovation, it's going to need a roof every 25 years, going to need HVAC every 25 years. And those, we call those capital maintenance projects. There's a significant backlog in most every school district for those. So we are having to rob Peter to pay Paul in terms of taking care of both those need areas. I see a hand from Delegate Hornberger. If you'd like me to take any questions.
Absolutely. Delegate Hornberger?
Thank you to both of the chairs. So in Cecil County, we've taken on a very ambitious project to cut costs by combining a middle and high school in Northeast and doing new construction. However, the state for the last 2 years has deferred their share of construction funds basically on an IOU, saying that they'll reimburse later. This is really straining not only our construction deadlines, but our county's willingness to take on additional projects because they're having to shoulder these costs. Can you speak to the reimbursement of the state side and kind of maybe get back to us on a forecast of when that money is going to become available, because it is a tremendous strain on our budget?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Delegate, because it's not unique to Northeast Middle High School project. It is the rule across the board that when the IAC funds a state share of a project, it identifies the total maximum state award that can go to that project, but it does not and cannot ever promise delivery of that state share in a certain time frame, or in many cases in the construction schedule draw timing of the costs of the construction project. And so Northeast Middle High School project, just like most of the other large projects, that's a $178 million project. The state is funding 103 million worth. Because the IAC does not receive enough appropriations for school construction each year, we have to spread what we do get over a large number of projects in all 24 plus Maryland School for the Blind jurisdictions. And that means that the reimbursements take a lot of years to go. So that's the standard. Unfortunately, if we had more in appropriations, we would pay out on each project faster, and it would be fewer years of, quote, local forward funding.
Do you think that maybe the GO bond is a solution for that?
I would defer to the folks who handle the financial side of funding the appropriations. It's not my area of expertise, but I can tell you that whatever dollars are provided to the IAC in appropriations, we will get those dollars out the door in that same fiscal year every single time.
Thank you.
There will be no delays.
Yeah, the challenge that we have with school construction, it still has to fit within the confines of the school construction formula. And then that's my next question for you, Alex, is can you comment on the challenges that a lot of our rural areas have, because we just don't have the economy of scale that the bigger counties have. And, obviously when you're developing a formula, you want to make sure that it's fair for everybody. And I think the school construction formula, I'll publicly say it, I think it's about as fair as it possibly can be. But unfortunately, with anything, nothing's ever perfect, right? And so I think the jurisdictions that are most harmed by the formula are the smallest jurisdictions, mainly because they have fewer people to pay for very expensive infrastructure. So, but I know you're doing some work on that to help, and we certainly appreciate it. But I just wanted to see if you can just comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate. The long-standing formula for state local cost share has been in place for more than 30 years, and circumstances in the revenue world and the cost world, particularly for construction, have changed so much since that formula was put in place that there are some pieces that are somewhat out of date. And the IC is right now working on how we could update and modernize that formula to better address the difference between the tax base and fiscal capacity of the smaller counties and the huge cost of major school construction projects today, which could be $100 to $200 million for a middle or a high school or a combination. We are working through that right now. I hope to have some more news in the next few weeks. Really trying everything we can to, with the appropriations constraints we have, to figure out how to move these particularly larger projects in smaller counties forward. The IC has been doing that for the last couple of years, just without all the means that we'd like to have. But yes, we're working on it very focused manner right now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, I hope you'll share that with us. I see that we've just been joined by our comptroller, Brooke Learman, who is kind enough to come and say a few words this morning. Shall we? I know she has a very busy schedule, so Madam Comptroller, please
Great.
take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, it's great to see all of you, many of my former colleagues, and great to hear a little bit from Alex. Alex was incredibly helpful to us as we were preparing our report on school construction. For those of you who didn't see it, it does have a lot about some of our rural jurisdictions and some of the unique challenges that they face in coming up with that match, and actually some of the challenges that some of our rural counties face with some of our lower income, more populated counties. So it's, please take a look and feel free to send any questions our way. If you can give Elizabeth Twig on my team the ability to share her screen, we do have a quick PowerPoint. I just wanted to run through some of the work that we're doing in the Office of the Comptroller. But it's great to be here with all of you. Liz, are you able to share? You can unmute, Liz. Are you able to share?
Sorry, I'm working on it. I think I was just granted
Okay.
the ability. Yep.
Thank you,
Give me
Charlie.
one moment.
Thanks. And before we begin, I will add that I really appreciate all of you reaching out when your constituents need something. As you know, we continue to sort of have an overwhelming number of calls, and we try to keep up. So great. We're gonna just go through a few of the things. I want to just go through a few of the things and highlight for you some of the work that we're doing. Next slide, Liz. So this is our org chart for those who haven't seen it. It's when I took office, we changed the organizational structure of the agency to provide for increased accountability and transparency. So we have we have 4 deputy comptrollers, each who oversee a department. And I brought in the agency's first ever chief information officer, CIO, and our first CISO, because we handle a lot of information and it's really important that we stay extremely secure. So next slide. We also adopted this vision statement to work in partnership to create a state that's more equitable, more resilient, and more prosperous so that every Marylander can reach their full potential. And all of the work we do is encapsulated in these 3 core priorities. Implement critical agency-wide improvements to just make government work better. Ensure that the resources of our agency reach you and your communities and everybody that you work with. And then finally, of course, thinking long-term, ensuring Maryland is well-positioned for responsible long-term economic growth and success. So everything we do is really around that, those 3 core priorities. So what do we do? I like to think of our role in 3 big buckets. There's the CFO role. There's board oversight. Of course, many of you know I serve on a number of boards. And then there's the revenue administrator piece of the work that we do. Next slide. So just a few slides on some of the work we're doing these days. As revenue administrator, last year, we served over 3.2 million taxpayers. They submitted more than almost 6 million tax returns. We issued over 2.5 million refunds, including EITC credits of $519 million. We serve, of course, hundreds of thousands of businesses of every size across the state. And we have those businesses now submitting their taxes and their returns and making their withholding payments through our new tax system called Maryland Tax Connect, which has been up and running since February of 2024. Next slide. We also, I'm really proud, last year we launched a brand new unclaimed property website. And so this new modernized website really makes it much easier to claim lost assets. And we did have a little bit of a backlog from the old site, and of course the time that we had to convert to the new one, but we are excited about how much easier it is for Marylanders to find their unclaimed property now. We moved into the system that 40 other states already use. So this is a well-known system. We also work with states across the country. I'm actually something I never knew I'd aspire to. I am the vice chair of the National Unclaimed Property Administrators Coalition. So we work with unclaimed property folks across the nation to make sure that we can get folks what is rightfully theirs. And always, I will say, this is a great talking point for all of you to just share the unclaimed property website every once in a while or in meetings. Like, I often find people who then find money and they're very grateful. Next slide. We also are trying to tell the story of Maryland. I often say that the Office of the Comptroller is the first agency that sees the numbers that tell the story of how our communities, families, and businesses are doing. And we're trying to explain that story and tell that story through our reporting. So when I started, we created a mighty team of 2 whole people, 2 pins, to do these research reports. And we hope that they're helpful for you. That is the goal, is to make sure that all policymakers at the local and state level, business leaders, community leaders have a shared understanding of some of the challenges and opportunities that we are seeing in the state. Next slide. I am really devoted to transparency and to making our data more usable and user-friendly. So in the last year, we have launched several new dashboards. At the top right there, you'll see our Com360 dashboard. You can see this and you can go right in, zoom into your county and see how many people are claiming the Earned Income Tax Credit and other credits. You can go onto our and use our brand new federal spending dashboard, and you can play around with it and put in different metrics, like if a certain number of employees were cut from Pax River or some other agency, what would that mean for St. Mary's economy? So we created this online interactive tool for mostly for the CFOs of your counties that you represent, especially our smaller counties that don't have the ability to hire multiple economists to do this forecasting work. We hope that this new federal spending dashboard can be helpful to those smaller counties to give them ideas of what is coming or what could happen. And then we launched the BPW dashboard. You probably know it used to be that you had to, if you wanted to look up a capital grant or some contract, you had to download a PDF. Now we are updating. We've created this dashboard, and we're working to update it and populate it with all the information since January 2023. And then after we're updated, we'll go backwards so that you can search for and find contracts and see what's being approved. Next slide. These are just a couple of the boards that I'm on. The State Retirement and Pension Board, you all know, of course, but this is a new board, the Maryland Community Investment Corporation. This is a new entity that was created. And they are working right now on a rural financing initiative. So this is a group that is dedicated to bringing more new markets tax credits, federal new markets tax credits into Maryland and helping do some gap funding. So if you're ever interested in talking, the executive director is Michael Pokorny. They are very focused on trying to reach all areas of the state to do more of this sort of development in areas that are in empowerment zones and otherwise enterprise zones and otherwise. So delighted to connect you to Michael and his team anytime. And then the Maryland Food Center Authority, also on the board of the Maryland Food Center Authority, which has been really interesting in learning about more of the work that they're doing. Next slide. I'm on a lot of other boards too, but those are just a few. And then we are really focused on building better tools. So our new website launched in 2025. marylandcomptroller.gov. We have a bevy of information there, a lot of information on the IT services tax, and all the new initiatives we're doing. MyCom Connect is our new CRM, before I joined, there was no CRM, which was crazy. Now we have a CRM, and so we can track cases and hold employees accountable and make sure people don't fall through the cracks. And we are focused on just everything from honestly from like the ground to the sky. We've laid new fiber. We're doing all sorts of new things to make sure that this agency outlasts all of us and its systems. So we're focused on really solidifying it as it's really the backbone of state government. I have realized you don't see it, but it's holding it all up and all together. So whether that's paying you all and paying state employees, or sending out checks to our capital grants, or all the accounting and the finance systems, it all flows through us. And of course, we work with Secretary Weissman and others in the administration closely too. Next slide. We also created an Office of Taxpayer Advocate. So it's only 4 people, but this is if there's particularly rough cases or challenging cases, to help make sure that those constituents have an advocate to get them through. Next slide. So just a few things I thought I'd highlight from the Board of Public Works. Next slide, that we have been doing. We, of course, work with MALP. I'm on the board of MALP, but then we also have a number of their items come to the Board of Public Works. So in 2025, we preserved over 3,000 acres permanently through MALP, and worked in all different areas of the state, from Kenton, Caroline to Garrett, Hartford, Washington. You see there, really all across the state. MALP is an important board, and I'm delighted to work on it with Secretary Addix and others. Next slide. We also, of course, are responsible for approving rural legacy and conservation investments, and through program Open Space and Rural Legacy. So there are just a few of the numbers that came through the Board of Public Works in all of the different, so many, again, different counties really across the state. And I just think it's really fascinating to be on the BPW and see all of these projects come through and see the good work that is happening in many of your districts. And if you're ever interested in testifying, or if you want, I know the treasurer keeps you updated on when things in your county are coming through, and we try to do the same for nonprofits. So the treasurer's office takes legislators, and we try to take the nonprofits and let folks know when things are coming. Next slide. And then finally, we have an Office of Public Engagement, OPE, and we have folks throughout the state, not a huge team, but we have about 5 or 6 people who get around the state to connect with you all and to connect with your constituents and your small businesses. Working with the Rural Development Corporation, Family Advocates. We are working with, we go to the county fairs. We go to your local chambers, your local Chamber of Commerce meetings. We've talked with the Midshore Regional Council, and then, of course, in the Tri-County Council and others. So we have great folks all around the state. And if you don't know the folks in your region, please let me know, and we're happy to connect you. We have Christy out in Mountain, Maryland, Mary Handley on the shore, Cheryl Thorne in Southern Maryland. Clem works with us. Clem Caucus works with us in Hartford and Cecil. So a great group all over. Next slide. Oh, look, Michael Baird's late. And then here, just by the numbers, a few things that we have been working on. Just a couple of the, we have big numbers in our agency and lots going on. So just thought I'd share a few. Next slide. And very briefly, just thought I'd recount the December Board of Estimates meeting, or Board of Revenue Estimates meeting, the BRE. Our economic forecast was quite consistent with September. We expect growth to slow this year. We did see about 3% growth overall in FY25, and we're expecting growth to slow in FY26. We had a pretty robust first quarter of calendar year 2025, and we don't expect that to happen this calendar year. But the good news is that our BRE estimates have held pretty steady. So since last March, you might remember in December of 2024, we did a write down so that we could be more conservative, understanding the priorities of the new administration. And then in March, September and last December, we were fairly consistent with that write down. We have not seen huge decline. So that's, I mean, that's honestly about as good as it can get right now, is to be consistent. We did estimate that we would lose 25,000 federal jobs in Maryland, and we lost 25,000 federal jobs in Maryland. So, yep, next slide. And then, of course, there are a lot of uncertainties. This is the first time in a number of years I've been told that we had both changes at the federal level and the state level for taxes. And that leads to, different taxpayers will make different decisions. And so we don't know exactly what decisions they'll make and how they spend and versus save. Last year was a little bit foggy in terms of spending and hiring. It was sort of like most employers sort of just battening down the hatches. There wasn't a lot of firing, but there wasn't also a lot of hiring in the private sector. And so, we'll see what changes, if anything, in 2026. Next slide. And then just to recap, next slide, we are launching in August our big new personal tax system. This will be the biggest update to the Office of the Comptroller, maybe this century. So it's a really big deal. We are moving all of our personal income taxes, fiduciary, pass-through entity taxes to this new online cloud-based system in August. This is essential. Our current system is about to fail. We cannot add, we can't add any more different tax types to it. It is because it's so old. Actually, 3 weeks after I was sworn in, it failed for a week. We could not process any taxes. So it is essential that we move into this new system. It does mean we'll be down for a little while in August as we literally transfer all the data from the mainframe through fiber to the new cloud. And there will be then a new system for the mini tax season, as we call it, this coming October. But this is a real legacy project and really essential that we do this. And I'll be praying every night until we move that it goes smoothly. But we have all the right people in place. So we're doing everything we can to test and train and be ready. Next slide. And then our final huge project, this will not happen for a couple years, but this year we are choosing the state's new ERP, our financial backbone, where our state has one of, if not the oldest financial systems in the nation. It limits what we can do in terms of accounting and transparency. So we are going to be moving to a new system. We are picking that system this year. The RFP is out right now. But it will then take a couple years to move into the new system because this is literally every agency will be moving. So thousands of processes across the state will change. As a part of this, we launched last year the Maryland Accounting Academy to make sure that secretaries and CFOs of agencies are keeping up with state accounting practices. And I think that's it. Is that it, Liz? Oh, we can skip. I think I've talked enough. So let's dive through this, but that's a lot of what we're working on. And, delighted to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Madam Comptroller. That was really interesting. What an enormous amount going on in your office. I'm particularly excited about the dashboards, but we do have a couple of questions. Delegate Hutchinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice to see you, Madam Comptroller, this morning. First, just a big shout out to Mary Handley. I mean, she represents you so well on the shore. I see her everywhere. People say that I'm busy. Boy, she gets everywhere. So hats off to what you're doing for us on the shore.
Thank you. And I'll be in Salisbury this week for the Greater Chamber. Actually, I know it's not your district, but we'll be in Salisbury for the day on Thursday.
Everything on the Eastern Shore is our district. We love everybody on the shore. Real quick, you and I passed, I think it was probably on opening day, about that whole short-term rental accommodations tax bill. Remind me where that stands and what's going on with that.
Yes, so this was passed last year, as you know, and it is, we need one more year to get it ready because of our tax system changes. And so we have been working with Senator Gazzoni to put in legislation, and he, I believe, has a bill to make a few tweaks to it, but also to push it out a year.
Thank
So
you.
he has a bill. Yep.
Thank you, update. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Delegate McComas.
Thank you, Madam. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
good. I thank you, Controller Learman. I'm very excited that you are coming to Harford County as a
Yes.
satellite office. It's very exciting.
Yep.
The thing is, I wanted to know if it's possible if you could provide the copy of your presentation as well as your verbal presentation, because it's very helpful, and I would like to go over it because you a real major data dump, but it was very, very good, and I think it'll be helpful for some of my constituents that deal with your office, just
Sure.
to see the volume of what you're working on.
What we're working
And
on.
it was
Sure.
great.
We were happy to put together. Yes, we can send the slideshow over to your chair so that you have it. We'll just send it as a PDF. And I'm always also happy to, if you're doing webinars or coffees or roundtables, I'm happy to come talk. We have done meetings and roundtables around the state with small business owners and others. So I'm always happy to come meet with folks to chat and share what we're working on. And, anytime, just coordinate. We're happy to coordinate with my office. And for those who don't know what Delegate McComas meant, we are opening an office in Bel Air. We're very excited. It opens tomorrow. They're getting all the approvals today. And it's on Emerton Road. And we are having a ribbon cutting in March. So really excited about that. And, we used to be in Elkton. We are sorry to Cecil County. Sorry, Kevin. But we just knew that we would get a lot
support
more
what you're doing.
traffic. Yeah, we just knew that there was a greater need and more people that needed us in Bel Air. We'd love to be in both places, but we had to choose one. So we're really excited to be opening in Bel Air, and we're even sending additional staff to that office as well.
Thank you for all your efforts on a smooth transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We're very excited you're coming to Bel Air. Sorry about that, Kevin.
Well, thank you very much, Comptroller Learman. I know we can say with confidence that you and me and Delegate Hornberger and Sample Hughes, we came from the largest
class.
and the best class of the
Yes.
Maryland General Assembly in the history of Maryland. So,
yes.
Great. Just moving back to critical infrastructure, we also have on the call Kevin Canale with MACO. And yeah, I just want to give him a couple minutes to follow up on the conversation we had about IAC and also some work that MACO is doing in regards to taking a look at our statewide inventory of infrastructure. And I mentioned it in opening that if we can get this, an idea of what our infrastructure needs are, prioritize it, and then come up with both a short-term and long-term plan on how to address these things. And I know that MACO's has already started work on that. So I'm going to give Kevin a few minutes here to talk about what they're working on.
Thank you so much, Delegate. And sorry for juggling multiple meetings. I'm about to walk into another one, but I really appreciate the opportunity to jump on. It's been a really good conversation. Thank you to the comptroller. She just spoke, but her team's been fantastic. We've been working with them on a number of items, including the Airbnb issue, which did pop up earlier, but we're in a good spot. So thank you for all the work. And IAC, you mentioned school construction. One thing that I did hear, forward funding is a big problem. I think Delegate Hornberger brought that up. We know the state is in a tough spot, but we're still trying to do the work on the ground. We have schools aging out across the state, and $150 million isn't what it used to be just a few years ago. So you will see infrastructure at the top of our list of initiatives with highway user revenue and with school construction. Alex is a great partner at the IAC. We are working, Delegate Grice, on an inventory of our schools, working with the IAC to try and develop some better data there. But we know it's an issue in each and every county. And when we talk about things like housing, which is also a huge issue and very important that we create more affordable housing and workforce housing, that requires infrastructure, things like public schools and roads and wastewater treatment, 911 centers, all of these things that make our state run every single day. So I mentioned school construction. We would love to see more of an investment from the state. Also working on, again, that data. Highway user revenue, this is the money that goes to your local roads. I know you're all familiar, but we do face a $100 million cliff in fiscal 28 unless the General Assembly patches this funding cliff that we face. Back in the Great Recession, we lost 90% of our road money. We don't have any ability to generate revenue for roads locally. People think that their gas tax pays for roads, but in Maryland, it's property taxes, and it's been that way for a long time. So we know that transportation is a big deal moving forward. We think that maybe the state's going to take a holistic look and decide to do some bigger and broader initiatives and ideas. So our ask is that please don't let us fall off this cliff and get us to the next big thing, whatever that's going to be, what the state wants. But I know you're probably all dealing with potholes after all the snow, and so this is where you see that come up. $100 million is a big deal for local governments, and again, that's just falling off the cliff overnight unless we get a patchwork. So that's a big deal for us this year. You're going to hear a lot about that. The municipalities are with us as well there. So roads, schools, bridges, of course, these are all the things every day. But I also mentioned, I heard a lot about wastewater treatment, 911 centers. We don't often think about that. I'm happy to see legislation this year to protect our critical infrastructure, multiple bills in to do that, especially against evolving cyber threats. So we really appreciate the focus on infrastructure from the Rural Caucus. We're happy to be partners moving ahead, but we really do want to work with you all to go over that data once we get some more about the schools and just our infrastructure generally across the state. It's not the sexiest thing to put money in the sock to invest in infrastructure that one day will fail, but it's critical because when it does fail, everyone's looking around wondering who should they blame, right? And we don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure we can invest in housing and a lot of new infrastructure, new investments that will bring people to Maryland, reduce our reliance on the federal government, get that private sector investment, but we can't do it without the infrastructure. So that's our pitch. We're happy to partner with you. I appreciate the opportunity and happy to work with anyone here or answer any questions. But thank you, Delegate. I know we're short on time.
Sure thing. Thank you for being very brief as well. And and I will say that MACO and MML will be strong partners moving forward with the Rural Caucus. And there's a lot of issues, including, we'll be working with like our fire and EMS, for example. We moving forward, looking into that, paid versus volunteer fire service. That's a big issue. I think that the Rural Caucus is going to have to deal with in partnering with others over time.
Yeah.
But we certainly look forward to working with you guys. And Delegate Ziegler, I'll turn this over to you. I think we have a little bit of work that we have to do too, as far as a discussion on what bills we may be supporting over the next week or two.
Absolutely. If you have the time, I understand there's a caucus meeting that you have to get to as well.
Oh no, let's do this. This is more important.
Okay, so this is going to be some bill speed dating. I believe we actually have Delegate Todd Morgan with us on the call. And the first bill I wanted to take up for our consideration for support. I think this is going to be one of the most important things that we do as a Rural Caucus.
I apologize, Delegate Ziegler. Do we have 5 members of our caucus?
We're
going to need a quorum,
yes,
actually, to vote.
We are going to need a quorum. Thank you.
So we have Delegate Sample Hughes. We have
away here.
Delegate Hornberger, me. I think Steve. One of the Steves were.
We have Andre Johnson
and Kevin Baker. We do. Okay, Delegate
Yes,
Baker's here, so we're good.
okay.
We're good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that we had a quorum.
Quite all right. Delegate Morgan, do you want to give us the elevator pitch for
the elevator pitch is this is a bipartisan local bill between St. Mary's and Calvert. It has been co-sponsored by both Delegate Ziegler and Delegate Christ and Delegate Hornberger. And what it basically deals with is living shorelines. And under the bill, it only covers St. Mary's and Calvert. It basically changes some of the rules along the way that will move some of the responsibility of MDE, of certification for living shorelines from MDE to the local soil conservation districts. It redefines the living shorelines to an extent. It defines energy along the way. It has a few other nuances in there. And the purpose of the bill basically is to recognize that, we are rural. We have the Eastern Shore, we have the Western Shore, and the Western Shore's topography is much different than the Eastern Shore. And we can just think of it like last week when the storms come in, we get nor'easters, We got storms coming up the East Coast where the cold comes down, the wind comes in, and we end up with cliffs on our side. We have Calvert cliffs, we have Scientific cliffs, we have Drum cliffs. So names are relevant to where we live, and everything, one size does not fit all. And under the MDE rules right now, living shoreline is a mandate. It takes a tremendous amount of money and effort to hopefully get a waiver, which doesn't come very often. So this is just a local bill to exempt St. Mary's and Calvert and change the rules a little bit about the way we're going to address living shorelines in the future. There's my fast elevator speech.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate it. So if possible, I would like to take a vote on supporting this bill by the Rural Caucus. If everybody on the committee could please come on camera to vote, and if we could just raise your hands or say aye if you favor supporting this bill.
Aye.
2,
Aye.
3,
Aye.
5.
Aye.
Are there any, is anybody opposed? Okay, wonderful. The Rural
Great bill, and
Caucus.
that's something that we may look at expanding in the future if this
Thank
is
you.
successful.
And I agree with you, Doug Hornberger. We're just trying to take this baby steps at a time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. House Bill 613 will be supported by the caucus. I have a very fast one, HB 35. It's a bill that Linda Foley is sponsoring. It's enabling legislation for counties that want to try to deal with the invasive tree of heaven, which is a host plant for the spotted lanternfly. And as I think everybody is well aware, is unbelievably invasive, very hard to get rid of. And this would give counties some further tools for dealing with it. They could offer a bounty, and it also includes other invasive tree species. So I think it's an excellent bill. This has been a tremendous problem where I live. I learned from the bill that I've been dealing with it wrong. So I think it's an important bill. So again, if you could come on camera if you want to vote, and anybody in favor of House Bill 35, the enabling legislation for invasive species and particularly tree of heaven.
Yeah, I'll
please
make a
say
motion.
aye.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to support it.
Yeah, and I'd like to second that. We in our county, we have the Weed Control Board, and they kind of work in partnership with State Highway a lot of times for these invasive species. But putting a finer point on it is critically important because this crosses over into the invasive species, for the spotted lanternfly. So definitely want to support the bill and thank the sponsor for bringing it forward.
Further discussion?
Is there any way we could get a quick summary on exactly what the bill does?
Yes.
Delegate Johnson, just while she's looking that up, what we're going to do moving forward is we're going to develop a Google spreadsheet where we can all log in. We'll be able to make comments, and what we're going to do before we actually vote on camera is with that spreadsheet, we're going to indicate our support or opposition to any of these bills moving forward. So that way we're going to have a complete understanding before we move. We just wanted to choose 3 bills that seem very easy to move for this first set of voting. And then Thursday morning, where the expectation is well, by the end of the day today, we're going to have the spreadsheet up and running for everybody. And then by tomorrow morning, it'll be up and running. And then hopefully, Thursday morning, we're going to ask that the members fill out that spreadsheet, let us know how you're going to vote on it, and then we'll have a section in there for questions and answers as well on that spreadsheet. And then hopefully we're going to vote before session on Thursday on another batch of bills.
All right, I appreciate it. I know we're just trying to get situated and organized here, but
yeah, we'll be much more organized moving forward. We just wanted to pick a few just to get into the swing of things. That's the reason why we kind of did things the way we did today.
And because there's a time crunch, but yes, I do apologize. So what this bill does, it authorizes the governing body of a county or municipality, as I said, it's enabling, to adopt certain ordinances to regulate trees of heaven, authorizes the governing body to establish a bounty program to incentivize the removal of trees of heaven, and generally relating to local management of trees of heaven and other similar invasive species. So as you know, this is a big problem, particularly for vineyards. The spotted lanternfly is very destructive to vineyards, and it also authorizes a replacement program, which would mean a program whereby a person receives a native tree in exchange for removing and eradicating an invasive tree. Again, this is entirely enabling. So for those counties that have a particularly serious problem, it just would give them a few more tools to cope with it.
All right, thank you, Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you. Discussion on the bill?
So we have a motion and a second. We just have to vote.
Seeing none. Okay. All those in favor of supporting HB 35, please raise your hands or say aye. And I am an aye, so that passes. Thank you very much. So we will be supporting House Bill 35. And the last one today is actually my bill, House Bill 461. It's to establish a program in the Rural Maryland Council that would serve as a one-stop shop for nonprofits or small towns that need some help with any kind of a project they're trying to complete. So this one-stop shop could help with grant writing, with identifying grants, with producing business plans, pro formas, help with permitting, with things like well and septic issues. And just to give you a real life example, so the town of Grantsville, which is in northern Garrett County, wants to build a community center, and they need $2.5 million, even though ultimately it will be a revenue generator. And the Rural Maryland Council was able to identify that they're eligible for new market tax credits. And with this program, they could help them write a business plan, write a pro forma, get a loan from a bank. So the town owns the land and has architectural drawings, but they're still a long way away from completion. And whereas, a town like Rockville has staff that can do all of this, small towns just don't have that kind of capacity. So this would create a one-stop shop to help nonprofits and small municipalities get projects accomplished. So that, in effect, is the bill. Do I have a motion to support it?
Move favorable. Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of supporting House Bill 461, the Rural Readiness Program, raise your hand or say aye. Wonderful. That passes as well. So we have 3 bills that we will be supporting, and as Delegate Grice said, this will be a much more in-depth and better process going forward. So I apologize for the speed. We just wanted to get some of these out, the hearings. I believe Delegate Morgan's hearing is it today? It's soon.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, yeah.
Tomorrow. Wonderful. Great. All right. Thank you all so much. And
I just want to, before we end, I want to thank Secretary Weissman on short notice for coming to this meeting. Obviously, it's critically important that the administration understands the needs of our rural communities, and I'm very thankful that he was here along with the comptroller as well. So they didn't need to come, but they did take the time out of their busy schedule to meet with us. I just wanted to publicly thank them before we adjourn. So
indeed, I do really appreciate it, and to be continued. Absolutely. This is a critical discussion. So
thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing you all this week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
have a great day.